This has been long overdue for our people to take our rightful place.
Tonight, construction is set to begin on the largest urban reserve in Canada.
And it's really an important day. I think we all understand that healthcare, not only in Nunavut but across Canada, has really seen the challenges.
N.W.T signs a deal to bring in more healthcare workers.
So many people, even other nations have chosen our sacred language to speak.
And the Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation in Alberta wraps up a 3-day conference to protect the Nakota language. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Residents in the Northwest Territories are heading to the polls today to elect their political representatives for the 20th Legislative Assembly. Our reporter Charlotte Moore Jacobs takes a look at some of the big ticket campaign issues for Indigenous voters.
By the end of today, Northwest Territories residents will be one step closer in deciding their political future for the next 4 years. At the last Yellowknife Forum before the election, nonprofit organization N.W.T centered questions around issues of concern to Indigenous communities.
It's an opportunity for the constituents in the ridings in Yellowknife to hear more from the candidates about issues that they've already been talking about, but with a focus on Indigenous peoples.
Moderator Mandy McDonald says candidates don't always address issues facing Indigenous people unless specifically asked.
Indigenous peoples are not issues, but a lot of the issues that we're going to be talking about tonight and that the candidates have been talking about disproportionately impact Indigenous peoples in the north, and especially the decisions that are made in the N.W.T by people that live in Yellowknife have very big effects and implications for people in the communities outside of Yellowknife.
Voters are electing 16 MLAs with 3 candidates already being acclaimed. Outside of Yellowknife, there are 11 ridings up for grabs. At the forum, candidates discussed issues such as mental health, housing, and the climate emergency.
But I think we can shift the emphasis to the opportunities being presented now to get off of our toxic dependence on foreign-owned fossil fuels, and for communities to become self-governing in terms of controlling their own energy sources.
The territorial government is a colonial system.
There was also questions from the floor from Dene National Grand Chief Gerald Antoine.
How are you going to implement the treaty relationships, Mussy?
We should be, rather than resisting, we should be assisting them, because everybody I've talked to, whether they're in business or whether they're in government, can't explain to me what happens if the Indigenous government get everything that they want. And how will that affect us? It's not like they're going to take their lands and their people and walk away with what they've got. They are going to be developing those resources and moving ahead, and we will all benefit from that.
The election is 6 weeks late from the original October 3rd date due to wildfires. On the minds of many, emergency preparedness after Northerners endured a pandemic, floods, and wildfires in the intervening years.
Evacuations highlighted policy and planning gaps, for example, around emergency preparedness and equitable access to information.
Operating under consensus government, once MLAs are elected, they will choose a premier and 6 other cabinet members. The premier then gives portfolios to each member of cabinet. Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Still in the north, the Nunavut government signed a deal that they hope will help the territory bring in more healthcare workers. The government and the Nunavut Employees Union are trying to keep nurses, mental health assistants, and midwives on the job. It's hoped that increased hourly premiums for difficult-to-staff positions, more incentives for high-demand time periods, loan forgivenesses of up to 20% for Nunavut students studying healthcare will help keep more people working. Healthcare centers in Resolute Bay, Whale Cove, Joe Haven, Baker Lake, Cooric, and Coral Harbour are facing service reductions due to staff shortages. PJ Akiaguk is the Premier of Nunavut.
And it's really an important day. I think we all understand that healthcare, not only in Nunavut but across Canada, has really seen the challenges. And today is a very special day to really see what we could do to support the incredible healthcare professionals we have here in territory, and how more we could do as a government to support those we have, and to bring in measures that allow us to be able to stabilize the operations to ensure Nunavut have the level of care that every Canadian expects.
To Ottawa, and the federal environment minister Steven Guilbeault announced a new $180 million fund on Tuesday. It's to assist Indigenous communities with renewable energy and low-carbon heating projects. About $74 million of the Indigenous Leadership Fund will go to First Nations-led projects. The remaining $106 million is slated for Métis and Inuit projects. Guilbeault had this to say about the important role Indigenous communities are playing in energy transition.
We have much to learn from the ambitious climate action Indigenous communities are taking across Canada. You are blazing the trail for the energy transition. Right now, Indigenous communities support the production of a significant part of Canada's renewable energy. First Nation, Métis, and Inuit entities are partners or beneficiaries in nearly 20% of Canada's electricity infrastructure.
A new report is shedding more light on how tough it can be making ends meet in Canada's biggest city. 1 in 10 people in Toronto now rely on food banks, twice as many as the previous year. According to the Who's Hungry report, there were more than 2.5 million visits to food banks between April 2022 and March 2023. That's a 51% increase. The report's author says the people using the food bank this year.
This year, what we're seeing is an increase in people who are employed coming to food banks. So amongst our new clients, we've seen about 120,000 new clients in the past year alone. And of those, about half have someone in their household who's employed. And so these are people who, they're working and they still aren't able to afford their most basic necessities.
The Daily Bread and North York Harvest say they are anticipating Toronto Food Bank visits in 2023 will surpass 3 million visits. Treaty 1 First Nation leaders held a groundbreaking ceremony in Winnipeg on Monday, where the construction of an urban reserve is set to begin. As Tamara Pimentel reports, the Chiefs are banking on site to bring economic growth to First Nations in Manitoba and provide some much-needed housing in the city.
It's the first phase of N.W.T, a long-awaited project on the former Capion Barracks Army Base in southwest Winnipeg. The 109-acre lot will be transformed into an economic zone and urban reserve.
This has been long overdue for our people to take our rightful place. We have always been economic people. We have always been people that sat down and made agreements.
Broken Head Chief Gordon Blue Sky joined the leaders from 6 other Treaty 1 First Nations to welcome the project. The Treaty 1 nations were awarded the former Army base in 2019 following a dispute with the federal government. A small portion is still owned by the Canada Land Company. Speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew said his government has passed a cabinet order relinquishing any future claims to the site.
This is economic reconciliation. This is an opportunity to see people move forward together in a good way with the Treaty 1 leadership as stewards of this economic development.
N.W.T could accommodate up to 3,000 homes and hold roughly 1 million square feet of commercial space. The development is expected to be completed in 10 to 15 years. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The race is on for the next National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. We'll be speaking with all the candidates ahead of the election, including Sheila North, after the break. Welcome back. The Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation in Alberta is wrapping up a 3-day conference in Edmonton designed to help protect the Nakota language. The event brought hundreds of Nakota, Lakota, and Dakota people together to find methods to revitalize the Nakota Stoney language. Elders, educators collaborated to find the best method of teaching the language to youth. The keynote speaker was Chief Arvel Lookinghorse from South Dakota.
So many people, even other nations have chosen our sacred language to speak, and to us, it's a part of our prophecy that we honor the sacred language, and we honor the spirit of Mother Earth, and that we need to unite all nations, all faiths, one prayer.
Good to see you, Chief Lookinghorse, sounding and looking so well still. Well, Sheila North is a familiar face on the national and international stage. Now she's vying for the position of National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. It's not her first time running. In 2018, she came in second, losing to then incumbent Perry Bellegarde. North is from Bunabonabee Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. She's a journalist and international advocate for missing people, as well as the former Grand Chief for Manitoba, Kuwait, Naui, Okimakanak. Savannah Kelly spoke with her earlier.
So Sheila, it's been a tumultuous year for the Assembly of First Nations with the former National Chief's removal this summer and claims of bullying and harassment within the organization. What do you think needs to be done for AFN to move forward from here?
One of the biggest things is to rebuild relationships within ourselves, in the organization, with our leadership. So I think there is a lot of work to do on that front, and meaningful work. We have to find a way to come together and move forward in a good way with our people and with the rest of the country, because there are many dire issues that are at stake and many lives that are at stake. So I think we have to take time and do careful rebuilding of our relationships and start to move past some of the issues that have come up in the last few years.
And there are a number of First Nations people who say they feel the AFN no longer has the best interests of the people at heart. What would you just say to those people, and how would you improve relationships between the AFN and the nations it represents?
Well, first of all, I feel terrible that has happened, and for me as a candidate, I apologize for that had happened. But I believe, again, that we are in a rebuilding relationship phase again. We need to come together, and there is a lot of value in our relationships with our grassroots. Of course, I know chiefs know that, and the rest of us know that. So we have to do everything we can to repair some of these discrepancies and work together, because there are, again, lives at stake, and it's very important for an organization to be inclusive and to be responsive to the people that it represents, the chiefs first of all, but also the communities at the community level. And I'm hearing a lot from the community level that there is a disconnect, and that there's people, even some leaders, that are disillusioned with the AFN. So we have to rebuild that relationship and look at the structures again at AFN and start to be more responsive and inclusive to people, but of course, more importantly, to the chiefs. We need an organization that works for the chiefs and works for the people, not the other way around.
And if elected as the next national chief, what would be your highest priorities for the AFN?
I think we need to figure out our bannock and tea issues, also known as bread and butter issues. I'm talking to chiefs across the country, and I'm hearing over and over again, at least half of the calls that I've been making, that there are serious issues facing people, and one of the biggest one has never really gone away, and that's untimely deaths due to suicides, to to sicknesses and addictions, we need to start tackling the critical issues by understanding what they are and understanding what we're facing. And by doing that, we have to build relationships to be able to get information, but enough that we can share information on what the needs are. So I think we need to form a base to see where we're at this point, what happened to our people after the pandemic, for example, and now with this global economic crisis. Where do we stand? And then what can we do to go forward? And a lot of it will be based on what our inherent and treaty and title rights are, and start to build new mechanisms that are also old mechanisms for our people.
And finally, what would you like to see the Assembly of First Nations accomplish in the coming year?
Unity. I think that is the biggest challenge right now, is to find common ground. There's going to be diversity, no doubt, across the country, and there is, and that will be valued and that will be respected. But we need to find a way to unify so we can speak together on the critical issues that are facing our people. There are so many opportunities and so many good things among our people and for our people. We need to find a way to come together, to strengthen each other, to celebrate each other, but also to help each other as we go forward in the next few generations. I'm a kukum now, I'm a grandma now, and it makes me have a longer view. And I want to be able to say in the longer view that my grandchildren and your grandchildren and our grandchildren have a better future than we have. And I believe that's possible. I know that this is a moment in time. If we look back 150 years ago, where were we? And 150 years later, here we are. We're in every facet of society. And if we go forward together, where will we be in the next few generations? And I have great hope in that, in our future.
Great. Well, we'll have to leave it there, Sheila, but thank you very much for taking some time for us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So over the next week and a bit, we'll be running our interviews with all 6 of the candidates running for National Chief. The election will take place on December 6th. Time for another quick break. Still to come, look at tonight's episode of Face to Face, where our guest is also former candidate for National Chief. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And this photo of the beautiful and calm waters of Clear Lake, Manitoba, I'm sure it's pretty chilly too, located in Riding Mountain National Park, sent in by Lucille Paul. Thanks for watching, Lucille, and sending in your photo. Remember that your photos can be sent to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at Wednesday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, +6 in Halifax, 4 above in Fredericton. -2 in Kuujjuaq, 4 below in Nain. 8 in Montreal, +3 with snow in Chibougamau. 10 in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 9 for North Bay. Sunny and 9 in Thunder Bay, +4 in Sioux Lookout. +2 for God's Lake and the Paw, 3 in Norway House. 6 above in Winnipeg, +5 in Dauphin. 3 in Regina, 4 above in Saskatoon. 2 for Meadow Lake, snow, and 0 in Buffalo Narrows. Snow across parts of northern Alberta, -7 for High Level and Fort Chipewyan. 4 above in Edmonton, +6 for Lethbridge. 7 above in Vancouver, 10 in Victoria. 0 in Prince George and Smithers, cloudy and 8 below in Dease Lake. -6 in Old Crow, 7 below in Whitehorse. -12 in Yellowknife, 11 below in Norman Wells. 10 below for Sax Harbor and Pawlatuck. -13 with snow in Baker Lake and Arviette. -10 with snow in Resolute, 4 below and flurries in Igloo Lake. An Indigenous woman from Ontario has a product line that helps people with eczema. So much so that it is now the first product line of its kind to be sold in 100 Shoppers Drug Mart stores across Canada. APTN's Tina House has this story.
So I'm a mother of 2, and both little girls have eczema, really severe eczema. And when I discovered Satya, it changed their sore little arms in 3 days. It brings me to tears. It's life-changing. So thank you, Satya.
This testimonial video was uploaded onto the Instagram page for Satya Organics, a company created by Indigenous entrepreneur Patrice Mousseau. Mousseau is also a familiar face at APTN National News and was the anchor of the show at one time.
Well, it started because I had a baby, and she had problems with her skin. She had eczema or eczema at 8 months old, and so I just used my previous research skills as working as a broadcaster and started experimenting in my kitchen with a crock pot that I had bought used off of Facebook for about $15.
She developed a salve with 5 simple ingredients. She treated her daughter with it, and within 3 days, her skin healed. That's when she decided to launch a company, Satya Organic.
So it's very simple. It's all made from whole ingredients like sweet almond oil and jojoba, calendula flowers, things like that, but like no fragrance, no preservatives, no alcohols. It's hypoallergenic, it's dermatologist and pediatrician approved, but just really clean and simple so you know exactly what you're putting on your skin.
Patrice now lives in Vancouver, and today she is speaking on a panel at an event called Retail West.
I started my company here 10 years ago at the Farmers Market in Port Moody, and what we do is we create skincare for people who have skin issues.
And her product line has now evolved into this roll-on stick, travel-sized packaging, and everything is refillable. She also has invented this calendula flower oat bath, as calendula is known for its healing abilities.
If you go to the back, there's a QR code there that leads to a music playlist for the bath of all Canadian Indigenous artists. And then when you're done, you scoop out the flower petals, and there's seeds in there, and you can actually grow your own calendula plant with this.
You can now find her products at any Shoppers Drug Mart across Canada.
I feel really fulfilled by doing this, and also to show my daughter, you know, that she can run a business and do anything that she wants to.
And one person at a time, Mousseau is trying to heal the world. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Jody Calahoo Stonehouse is the first First Nations woman to ever be elected to the Alberta legislature. But the NDP MLA for Edmonton Rutherford is no stranger to politics, having previously served as a band councillor and making a run for AFN National Chief. Tonight's all-new episode of Face to Face, she acknowledges that running provincially was something she had to consult with elders and others about.
Growing up, I heard this sort of rhetoric around those aren't our politics, that's not our place. And it wasn't serving us. I mean, we are Albertans. We do live on these lands, these resources, this watershed, the delta. I mean, our people have lived sustainably on these lands for millennia. So these politics are our politics. We do belong here, and there is space for us. So changing the narrative is part of the work.
And you can watch our interview with Jody Calahoo Stonehouse in less than 2 minutes' time. We also talk about the upcoming AFN election and much more. Well, we're all out of time for your APTN National News on this Tuesday. For much more, head over to our website, aptnnews.ca. Dennis Ward, Marcy, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.